Some people do like management, do rent to rent, other people buy properties, run them as SAs. What's the best strategy for somebody starting out?
I would probably always look at purchase if possible. If we'd have been having this conversation 2, maybe 3 years ago, it would have been rent to rent, day in, day out. Rents are so high now. There is very little money in rent to rent.
Welcome to the Air Buy and Sell podcast, where we delve deep into the world of Airbnb hosting and unlock tips and tricks directly from the Airbnb hosts themselves. So today I'm sat here with the amazing Joanne Simcock from Airhost and Clean, a management company in Liverpool. Joanne is possibly one of the most recognisable faces and names in the service accommodation industry in the UK. And when I first started 4 years ago, Joanne was one of the first people that I came across, and I was really fascinated by what Joanne and the rest of the team at Airhost and Clean had achieved in such a short period of time. So thank you very much for joining us, Joanne. Please tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got into service accommodation and your journey up to this point.
Thank you very much for that lovely introduction. In 2013, I went to Australia with my daughter and we stayed in an Airbnb property, and that was when it was either somebody's couch or somebody's spare room. It was never an entire place. So we stayed in somebody's spare room and family was going, "What do you mean you're staying in somebody's spare room? She's 13, how safe is that?" And I was like, "It'll be fine." And anyway, it was absolutely brilliant. Couldn't afford to stay in a hotel in the CBD in Sydney because it's just so expensive. So we stayed in someone's spare room. It's absolutely perfect. The guy was at work all day. By the time we got up at 9 o'clock, he'd gone to work. By the time we came home at 11 o'clock at night, he was in bed. So we hardly saw him. It was great, fitted our needs. And then as we were coming back from Australia, Natalie said, "I wonder if we could do that in our spare room." And I was like, "I'm not sure about that." And anyway, we did. And we carried on and we did it for best part of probably 3 years. Yes, that was 2013. We carried on until about 2016 or 2017, by which time she was so over having strangers literally coming and going all times of day or night. And because there was just 2 of us, of course, 2 females in the house, we only ever took females. We didn't strictly say females, but we sort of put the boys off, sort of thing. So it was absolutely fine. From a safety point of view, never had any issues. Squiddled all our Airbnb money away. And then in 2018, with the money we had generated through Airbnb, Natalie and I took 10 weeks off and went around the world, literally with the money that we'd squiddled away from the Airbnb. And then I was like, okay, there's got to be something in here somewhere. People are booking and they're wanting to book the whole apartment. So people were inquiring, I know it's only 1 room, but do you rent out the whole apartment? And I was like, okay, let's just have a look into this. So anyway, found a property and I was like, yeah, we're going to buy it. At this point, I've been with my partner probably about 18 months. And I was like, do you want in? And he was like, yeah. So we bought this apartment, city centre, prime city centre on the waterfront to do as Airbnb. Ran it for about a year, did all the cleaning, because we both had full-time jobs as well. Did all the cleaning and everything. So yes, this was 2016. Then in 2017, him and I went to Australia. Natalie had flown the nest by then. And then we had to block the calendar out for a month because we couldn't find anybody to do it. So we got back, bank account empty, lost a load of money. So I was like, there must be other people who want to go on holiday, have funerals, weddings, business trips to London. Let's start advertising to find people who just want us to look after it as a bit of a side gig, in addition to our own job, a bit of holiday money sort of thing. So we started advertising and then we went to see a guy in Wavertree. Actually, he was our first investor, it turns out. Didn't even know what the word investor was. He was just a guy on Airbnb I was going to meet. And got there, he's exhausted. He's like, "Can you help me change these beds?" So anyway, I helped him change the bed. Sort of chatting away to him. And he was like, "Oh yeah, sounds exactly what I need. I'm going today. Can you sort things from today?" And I was like, "Yeah, of course, yeah. Of course can. Until when?" And he was like, "No, forever." And just literally handed me the keys. And I was like, looked at Brian. I was like, "I think we've just got our first client." And it literally went from there. And he was quite influential because he did a lot of Samuel Leeds stuff. So he did a lot of videos and stuff. And he was like, "I've got this great management company." So we got a lot of recommendations off that. And anyway, fast forward to now, we've probably been trading 6 years officially as the business. And through that time, we've probably had over 120 properties through the books. We haven't got now, obviously, the drop off, and they come on. And only one of them do we do on a part-time basis. So we do 2 weeks in the summer and 2 weeks at the winter, while the owners are on holiday.
Okay.
And everything else is full-time.
Full-time,
So I never even knew that it was a thing. If you asked me to write a business plan all those years ago, it wouldn't look like what it does now, for sure.
What work were you doing then before you went and did this?
I worked at university, so I did 20 years in hospitality. I was hotel manager for 20 years previously to having Natalie.
I see.
And then, so for 20 years, I was working at the uni. I was in an administration role, so 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. Plenty of time on my hands to look after someone's Airbnb, and it was going to be fine. And I go on holiday for me 3 weeks a year, and typical boring corporate world, if you like. How life has changed.
Yeah. And how many have you got now then? That you manage?
We are on, I think we're on 63, and people sort of look at me a bit weird, like, because they don't know the number, but because it just changes so quickly. We lose some, we gain some. You know, we're on average, we're growing one a month is how it's worked out. So when we've done cash flow forecast for next year, we've just averaged one a month. And when the accountants looked at it, he's gone, but there's no attrition. And I'm like, well, no, there is. We like take 3 back, 4 forward, sort of thing. So.
I see. In terms of the future plans for Airhost and Clean, so are you going to continue to expand in Liverpool or look at some different cities, or is it kind of any other arms of the business that you're looking to grow further?
Yeah, no, not particularly. We are predominantly operating in a 4 square mile radius, really, of the city centre. And I like the tightness. I like that it's all contained there. We can be at any number of our properties in 20 minutes, and we generally are for any issue, unless it's something really trivial.
So is that a hard rule? Is it 4 miles away from the centre?
Pretty much, although we have just recently, we've made 2 exceptions this week. We've gone out to Formby, and that was for a different reason. That's a big, luxurious house in Formby. It's beautiful. And my cousin lives around the corner, literally around the corner from there.
I think I saw the one that you put on Facebook. Yeah, that was absolutely amazing.
Absolutely beautiful, isn't it? The golf and everything. When I've researched the nightly rates are through the roof. So I'm like, that's a good money maker, and it's worth a call out up there. If I get a call out up there on a Friday afternoon, I'm losing 3 hours, there and back if I can't get somebody else to go. But the income is worth going that far for. If it was a 2-bedroom normal flat in a block of flats, it wouldn't be worth, financially, it wouldn't be worth. So we have made that exception, and we've also moved to Garston this week as well. We're on board in a property in Garston, which is probably 5, maybe 6 miles. But again, it's just that little bit further. And the reason for taking that is we don't have a lot in the south of the city. So we're having to turn clients away because they're working Runcorn Widnes. They won't come through the city centre to get to Anfield or Kensington, where most of our stock is. So I'm trying to, at the moment, if you looked at Liverpool as a semicircle, 80% of my stock is there, and then I've got odd bits here. So I'm trying to increase this bit, and that's predominantly because houses, as you know, in the south of the city are so much more expensive than they are in the north. And the return is pretty similar. So where we're offered an opportunity in the south, we would definitely take it, as opposed to the north, where we are quite selective.
Do you have a lot of places in Anfield then?
An awful lot. Literally every other phone call is, I've got a 3-bedroom house in Anfield, would you manage it? And of course we will, and we'll do our best for you. But I am open and honest, that every other house is an Airbnb in Anfield right now, and people phone up, you'll know this yourself, to phone up and go, oh, it'll do really well because of the football. It doesn't do well because of the football. It does well on football weekends, but that's because people we have staying ordinarily can't afford these inflated city centre prices on a football weekend. So they're pushed out to where they can afford. So these people who we have staying 9 times out of 10 are not going to the football. They're there because they can't afford the city centre places that would be so much cheaper next weekend when there wasn't a match on, and they would stay city centre then. So that's why we do well, not because of the football.
No, absolutely. So, and any plans to operate in different cities?
At the moment, we operate in Stockport, and we do Stockport. And started out with a friend who then introduced us to another friend. And we don't do boots on the ground, we only do online management. So we do bookings, payments, guest communication, that type of stuff. If the key snaps in the lock, if the boiler breaks, I phone her up and I go, your boiler's broken, and that's the end of my input, you know, and I wait for her to tell me what's going to happen then. It is a little bit tricky sometimes, you know, it's frustrating more than anything. You know, not everybody has the same priority you do sometimes, you know, and whilst I can be at one of our properties within 10 minutes, you know, she can't necessarily, or they can't necessarily be. I can't keep an eye on cleanliness, I can't spot check, I can't check on maintenance, and that's a frustration for me. So when you talk about operating in other cities, I don't think my blood pressure could cope from a purely, I am very sort of hands-on and need to do these things now, you know. And also we've taken a few properties from national management companies, and, you know, fair play to them. I really do look up to people who can operate in every city in the UK. What we're finding is the same old tale that, you know, the washing machine was broken. It was 2 weeks before we could get a new one, because you're relying on a cleaner. Unless you have 4, 5, 6, 10 properties in that city, you can't have a power team. You know, that's not how it works. You're relying on your cleaner for absolutely everything. And a lot of the time...
Is that how companies do it then when they just start
pretty much?
They rely on the cleaner to do maintenance, laundry.
You know, do you know someone who'll come and fix the shower or whatever? And they could be getting ripped off left, right and centre. Like we took one in the city centre, and that was a national management company. The oven didn't work. The dishwasher hadn't worked for months. It absolutely stunk. And there was a used condom melted on the radiator, and it had been cleaned. Property had been cleaned when we got it. Honest to God, I was just like, oh my God. And this seems to be a recurring theme. Like people say to us, you know, oh, you're 18% and the guy down the road's only 15%. And yes, he is, absolutely. You know, we are the most expensive management company in Liverpool. But when you look at my reports, my processes, my systems, I can pull checklists literally for the whole time of we've had your property, and we can tell you exactly what we did when. We carry out property health checks, maintenance goes in once a quarter, checks absolutely everything. As soon as your gutter starts to drip, you'll know about it, rather than when there's a big line of moss and damp inside and everything, you know, you'll know. And that's why we charge what we do, because our systems and our processes are so tight, and we are constantly in the properties. We're not just relying on cleaners. Cleaners wouldn't even know, you know, whether a bulb had gone because they don't turn the lights on, you know, the bedside table lights. And I don't know how many times we've gone to do a spot check and the team have put Keith's boiler was off again. Okay, how did they clean the house? There's no hot water. They didn't turn the boiler off. Obviously the guest has, you know, and it's just absurd. So but what we tend to take from national management companies, and I may get shot down in flames. I've got some really good friends who are national management companies, and I'm not tarring everyone with the same brush, but my experience at the moment is a bit like, ooh, but this Garston one's coming from a national management company, and it's that beautiful. It just needs a bed making. Actually, I mentioned that to Dave this morning. I said, what needs doing? And he said, no, he said, it just needs making up. The other issue we've got there is it's a terrace street, so we don't know where the rubbish goes, because in Anfield, we've got these communal skips at the end of the road. So we wrote to the owner and said, you know, what happens with the rubbish? And he said, I've no idea. I was like, okay, well, something obviously happened. So whether their cleaners take it away with them or quite what, I don't know, you know, but something miraculously happens with the rubbish that we don't know about.
So is that the owner was parted ways with the national management company, and then the owner came to you to...
That's right. And it's funny because this owner we spoke to 3 years ago. And she decided to go with a national company because she's got property in other cities as well, and she gave them everything. And now she's taking stuff back off them. And and that is the one piece of advice I will give everybody. If you don't choose me, that's absolutely fine. I don't have a problem with that. But go with somebody who has a presence and has boots on the ground, because your property could be down for 4 days because your shower's broken. Whereas, you know, if you come to a local company, it should only be down 24 hours. I can go to Screwfix. I've been to Screwfix on Monday. The problem was reported on Monday. Vicky Pollard will tell you this, you know, from Exeter. She's
Vicky
heavily
Pollard from
Little Britain. Everyone says that. Hello, Vicky Pollard. She's put a booking with us at the moment. She reported Monday morning, shower, the dial is just spinning, and by Tuesday 10 o'clock we had a brand new shower fit committed.
Wow.
And she was like, wow. So she's going to do us a review. I was like, yeah, great. You know, and that's how quickly we can get things fixed. Not always, obviously. You know, we struggle with roofers and plumbers at the moment. This was an electric shower. Roofers and plumbers we struggle with at the moment. You know, they say, yeah, we'll turn up, and they let you down. But generally, we can get things, you know, moving quite quickly. Or even if we can advertise the house with no washing machine because it's being delivered in 2 days' time, you know, we'll put that on the advert and stuff, and then take it off when we get the new washing machine sorted.
So let's just talk about outsourcing. So I think when I first started with just a couple of properties, like tasks like maintenance, cleaning, linen, inventory management, they were quite easy to handle. But then as we grew to our size now, which is 13 properties, it just became the whole host of new problems that came with just those different aspects of the business. As a company of your size, how do you handle those aspects? Do you do them in-house or outsource, and what are the pros and cons of each?
Yeah, we were very, very fortunate that in the early days there was another small management company like us. It was a lady called Hayley, and she operated some units, and we were very similar. We grew very similar. We used to have coffee on a Friday and brainstorm and stuff like that, because I love the collaboration. Even though we're competitors, we're really not. You know, I do love that about Liverpool in particular. So loads of other cities say, oh, you know, nobody will share anything. I'm like, come to Liverpool, we share everything, you know, too much information sometimes. So we grew at exactly the same speed, and this was a friend of hers. She lived in L8, and this was a friend of hers, the maintenance guy, and she was like, oh, I've got a great guy. So she gave us his name, his phone number, phoned him up one day, and I was like, oh, I've got some door handles, will you come and fix them? Yeah. Fast forward, here we are now 6-7 years later, and 95 to 98% of his work comes from us. He stopped doing all the estate agent work. I mean, he was really frustrated with it anyway, because of course you get to the place the tenant's supposed to be in, she's not in, you go to the office, you get the keys, you go back, you know, it's the wrong key, and he can only charge for that job. You know, if it's a loose door handle, it's 20 quid, but it took him 3 hours to get in the property. So he was like, you know, literally anything you can give me. And we were like, yeah, great. So he now does all our fire risk assessments, he does our property health checks, all our maintenance, he does our rubbish collections as well, because as we know, rubbish is a big thing in serviced accommodation, particularly in the terrace streets. Yeah, he generally works Monday to Friday, but he will come out on the weekend if we're absolutely desperate. Our operations team consists of Natalie and David. David used to be in the army, and Natalie's recently done a construction course. So the pair of them will try absolutely anything. David used to be an electrical engineer. He's got no certificates or anything, so won't touch the wiring and stuff, but can generally diagnose something. And he's got this magic pen that tells you if there's voltage and all this stuff. You know, so we can do a lot of troubleshooting. We have a really good electrician who we can call. He'll be out in 5 minutes. We have a fantastic locksmith who is cheap as chips. And literally, he phones you up, he's at the property, he's changed the lock, he's dropped the keys at your house, he's posted them through the letterbox on his way home, you know, and he's really, really good. But he wants paying there and then. He's like, there's the keys, can I be 70 quid now? And you're like, yeah, I know the deal, you know. And it's these key contacts that you'll make throughout that you've just got to treat right. You know, if we hadn't treated them right in the early days, they wouldn't still be with us, you know. And like originally, it was a little bit difficult for Bri to understand that the locksmith wanted the payment as soon as he posted the keys, because not everyone lives like us. You know, some people rely on that 70 quid that they're earning now to put lecky in or buy food or whatever. I don't know this guy's personal situation, but he obviously needs it for a reason. And I said to Bright, you know, he's a really good locksmith. He drops stuff 11 o'clock on a Friday night. He's there, you know, we have to do this. And Bright's like, yeah, it's fine now. You know, he's like, send him his money, you know, and I'm like, yeah, great. You know, and it's those trades who we really do communicate well with. As I say, plumbers and roofers, you know, oh yeah, I'll be there, I promise. Oh, I tell you what, my van broke, the amount of vans that break down, and I fell off the roof, I've got no ladders and all this sort of stuff, you know. And I just think, I'd rather you just be honest and say, look, I can't, because as you know, builders or roofers or whatever, they're coming for a little tiny job for you, and then they get called to a 20 grand refurb. What are they going to do? Of course they're going to go, of course, you know. And Joe is brilliant, our handyman is brilliant. brilliant, but he has his limitations and he'll openly tell you, look, I think that's a little bit beyond me, or I'll have a go and see how we get on, but you may need to call someone else in, you know, and a couple of times we have, but he's dead good. He'll give anything a try, and he's working on his own home at the moment as well. So he's I think he's grateful for the skills that he's learned. He's had to learn while he's been with us as well. It tends to work well. But things like, what other stuff was it?
Like
cleaning,
you know, inventory management.
That's right. Cleaning. Cleaning and maintenance are the two worst things that we have in serviced accommodation. Honestly, they can absolutely make or break you, obviously. Touch wood, we seem to have cleaning on an even keel at the moment. I think we work with probably 5, maybe 6 teams, all companies. We don't employ our own. We did at one point and it was just a nightmare. I was never born to be a boss. I'm just not, because I haven't got the patience for any budgies died, the kids' toenails fell off, you know, and I'm like, people just not want to work. You know, and I really haven't got the time or the patience for people management. So I work with cleaning companies. If the budgie dies or the toenail falls off, it's somebody else's responsibility, not. That has its own issues. Of course it does, you know, in terms of consistency, quality, can't be bothered, you know, type mentality. But we like to think we pay, can't say we pay well, we pay a fair wage for a fair job. And if a cleaner goes in and goes, oh my God, this place is trashed, we'll divert a member of staff there straight away, you know, to help out, but to take photos, because you know, you get one photo of a bag of rubbish and they're like, this place is trash. Their version of trash to yours is sometimes a little bit out. So we'll always divert a member of staff there to help out, get things. And 9 times out of 10, it's not trash. Once you've got rid of 17 bags of rubbish, it's actually okay.
So you deal with the cleaners directly, or you go through whoever runs that company?
Yeah, it's whoever runs the company, but more often than not, they're only small companies. So there's only 3 or 4 of them. So they're all in the WhatsApp group together, and that's how we communicate. So the cleaning company owner, it's her responsibility to check our diaries, all our calendars for whatever properties they clean.
She does the scheduling for
That's right. And then our VAs the night before, at 4 o'clock the night before, will just pop a message in saying these are the checkouts for tomorrow, or you know, the guest said they've left a coat in the property, is it there, or it's a late checkout, early check-in, whatever it might be. So we use WhatsApp for that. And more often than not, the girls are in the group as well, so that we're not waiting for that second-hand bit of information. We get it straight from the cleaner. You know, when she says there's no keys, she's not waiting for us to tell her what to do then. We have spare lock boxes everywhere as well. We had a situation today where cleaners let herself in with the spare lock box, and 9 times out of 10, they're through the letterbox and they're on the doormat. They weren't. So we had to call them up to find out where the keys are, and they're back now. It is an issue, but touch wood, I think we're on an even keel. But as we grow and expand, we will add more to the team, because of course in the early days we just had 1, and then it was like, okay, well, they've got 10 now, they can't do any more. You know, on a Sunday they're like, well, you've got 12 checkouts, I can only do 5, you know, there's only 2 of us. I'm like, oh yeah, okay. So we do spread our eggs a little bit around, and it's you know, it is about price as well. You know, we've got one who's really expensive and one who's really cheap, and we wouldn't just use the really cheap one all the time. You know, we do have to spread it around, and I try and keep them in the same area as well. There's no point somebody going from Anfield across to Garston. You know, I want somebody who already is in Garston, and different things for different houses as well. I mean, every house should be 100% spotless and clean every single time, but we're a realist and we know that that's, you know, not always possible. Exactly. Exactly. And that's why we do the spot checks. So the operations team constantly out, you know, probably 3 or 4 a day, constantly getting checked. And it's not just cleanliness either. It's things like bulbs and they have to turn the TV on. They have to look under the cushions. They have to turn the hot water on, because then we know if the boilers, they have to take a picture of the pressure on the boiler and upload all that in their job form. So a lot of it is not just cleanliness, because that's what the cleaners are, oh, you're always checking up on us. We're not. Actually, a quarter of it is cleanliness. The rest of it is other stuff, loose door handles, that type of thing. All the things that guests would find irritating.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we have our own cleaners in-house. I think it's working okay-ish with the number of properties we've got.
Yeah.
One of the problems that we find is that all of our cleans are clustered on the weekends, especially the Sundays, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
So it's really hard to sort of ensure that the cleaners are still kept busy throughout the week, unless you want them to go and start doing other work, which means that they don't prioritise your jobs on the days that are needed. It's a really difficult one with service accommodation, much harder than just domestic cleaning.
Yeah, definitely. And when you speak to a new cleaning team, you say to them, like, you call them up and say, do you do Airbnb cleaning? Yeah. And you make an appointment, go meet them in a coffee shop, and they go, so what day of the week is it? And you're just like,
I've had that before.
That was just a waste of my time coming out here.
Yeah.
You just don't get it. It's not every Tuesday.
Or how many hours am I doing this week?
Yeah.
Just depends when we get booked. So.
That's right. And we have tried, as I say, we tried employing 16-hour girls, and it's like, well, I can't do next Sunday. And I'm like, okay, well, there's 8 hours gone already,
So with regards to linen, so we've spoken about it before, so you hire all your
we
linen,
do, we use a local linen supplier who the quality at the moment is not great.
Let's hope they're not listening.
We operate, well, they probably are, and we keep going back to them literally every week. At one point we were operating on 56% rejects, and their answer is, we'll just give you more, and there's no quibble about it. We send stuff back all the time. We send 10 duvets back and they replace 10 for free, and that's absolutely fine. But I'm not a hotel. I haven't got the luxury of going in a cupboard and getting another one. I'm 3 miles away in Anfield. I can't go in a cupboard and just get another one.
So you send spares then?
So they take a set of spares, but even just like, I think it was Monday, Natalie ended up having to go back out to 2 properties. She went to Rodney and Mallow because the spares had run out, and it's bloody hell, they both had check-ins. So it's like, we pay cheap as chips, but we get cheap as chips quality as well. And to be honest with you, we have looked and we're like, okay, we could pay another 25% more than we do if the quality was there. We can't find anybody to do the volumes that we need. We've got racks and racks of laundry. We did run out last week, but that was a different reason. Because I keep on boarding new properties and not actually telling anyone. I just keep stealing all the linen. This one informed me. I sent a whole load of linen up there, of course, without telling anybody. So the ops team were really happy with me last week. So but it works really, really well. The amount of Sundays I spent in the laundrette, washing and ironing laundry to go on beds ready for the next week was just crazy. And
so that's what you used to do at the beginning, was it?
We did, in the early days. We used to just sit in the laundrette the whole of Sunday, just washing and drying. It was actually quite nice.
That's what we're doing at the moment as well. So we have a member of our team who every day goes to the laundrette and takes everything and then brings it back.
Gosh, you need to sort this out.
We do need to sort it out.
Definitely.
Just cost wise, it just seemed quite prohibitive. To be honest.
But work out what you're paying that staff member and what you're putting, how much money you're putting in those machines. And you're also probably not getting the quality. You're not getting crisp white sheets that you can peel back and you can go, that definitely isn't slept in. You can tell a slept in bed when it's got hotel laundry on it. And all the makeup and everything that they get, the false tan the girls have got and everything. Literally, we
go through a lot of
some of the states are bedding, and particularly bath mats go back in because somebody's done that with their foot and wiped the floor with it. And I think, we're going to get charged for that. It all just goes in a big pile.
So any stay in bedding, the laundry company will charge you?
I think that's what they're supposed to do.
Right.
But because our laundry, literally, I think it arrives on the van and it all just gets emptied into these big washers. So I don't know how they know what's ours and what's down the road. It all just comes in. So
unless
I don't know. We've never
get rid of the stains.
We've never been charged. Because I think they definitely boil wash all of their laundry at really, really high temperatures because it is generally stain free.
Pretty good. Lastly, inventory management. So is that handled by the cleaning teams, or do you do that yourselves?
The ops team. It's mainly the ops team. we hold a certain amount of inventory. I mean, what we would ideally like, if we would like to say to our owners, you need to buy this crockery, this cutlery, these glasses, because then it's so much easier to keep restocking. Whereas, you know, we've got some that have got beautiful blue plates and they're lovely, but our stock for spares is all white. You know, when we have to put spares in, and it gets to a point where you're like, oh, I've got to bring all that blue out now and put all white in. So that's what we say to our owners initially. Like the Formby house, we've had her buy 3 sets. You know, she only needs 1 set, but we've had her buy 3 because it's beautiful and she wants to keep it beautiful. You know, she doesn't want to move to just plain white. So I was like, okay, that's fine, but you'll have to buy, you know, 2 sets of spares. Same with mugs. I think it sleeps 9 and she's got something like 30 mugs, you know, so we can just keep replacing them, and glasses. Otherwise you just end up with a bit of a mismatch in the cupboards, and it doesn't look particularly great. But part of the team's spot check is to check that there is enough cutlery, glasses, crockery, and what we seem to lose is forks and teaspoons. And I think the guys take them to work with in their packed lunch for their yogurt and their pasta or whatever, and they never come back. So forks and teaspoons that go through endlessly. And even things like hoovers, just trying to think, I'm trying to visualize this shelf. Bread boards, chopping boards, frying pans. Pans are a particular one as well.
Bottle openers, for us, they go missing.
It's like, where do these things go? But pans is a really big one. We always buy decent quality pans, so we always go for Scoville pans. Literally, you can do whatever Brian can cook on them and they're still perfect. Literally, and we buy them in Asda for like £35 when they're on offer, you know, for a whole set. So that's what we use all the time. But it's just a question of just keeping up with everything.
Okay. And in terms of like all of the consumables in the property, so I'm assuming you have things like tea, coffees, and salt, pepper, and is that again done by your ops team?
No, that's the cleaning team. So the cleaning team, when they come for the laundry, they do something like 2 bin bags, packet of toilet rolls, and then we have the mini toiletries. Not very good for the environment, but operationally they work. So there's a little bag of toiletries, a bag of tea, coffee and sugar, cloth, a sponge, washing up liquid. Can't think of anything else, but and they all go in the bag with the laundry and the towels.
Do you recommend things like cooking oil and salt and pepper?
We provide salt and pepper. We don't provide cooking oil because there's nothing worse than picking up a bottle and it's all greasy and it's horrible, and I hate it, absolutely hate it. If it's in the cupboard, I will leave it in the cupboard. That's the only thing the girls can leave in the cupboard. They can't leave anything else in. Fridges, freezers, everything gets emptied, whether it's open or not. Although we've been leaving ice in, you know, over the summer. It's like if somebody wants to use somebody else's ice, then that's up to them. But everything else gets taken away. But no, oil is the only thing we don't provide. And we do get pulled up on it occasionally because the Airbnb listing says pots, pans, salt, pepper, oil. So we have to tick it to tell people we've got pots and pans. And then they go, but your listing says you've got oil. And you're like,
bring them around some oil. What was I going to say? Do you leave like cleaning supplies and things for the guests?
Yes,
and
we
manage,
do. Yeah,
you know, ensuring they're stocked up properly, and is that the
so
cleaning
we
team
just
that manage that?
Again, so generally it's the same person doing the clean all the time in the one house. So she knows last time, you know, she was running a bit low on degreaser or whatever. So we provide degreaser, an anti-bac, a window and glass, and I think that's it. We did used to use kitchen and bathroom, but now we just use an anti-bac. It's like and it's mainly to encourage the guests, because I know what it's like when I go somewhere. I don't want to. I'm only there 4 days. I don't want to have to buy a cleaning spray to wash me kitchen worktops when I've been cooking chicken or something. So just a quick squirt. It's not for the cleaner's use. The cleaner takes their own, but it's just for the guests.
And I'm sure it's quite common that a guest might spill something, and then at least most guests, you know, are courteous enough to just clean up, and you provide the necessary tools so they can do that.
Definitely.
So I ask a lot of people on this podcast about worst horror stories that they experience. So as somebody who's been in this industry for a long time with a lot of properties, I'm expecting some good content on this one from you. So
oh gosh, probably the worst one, I mean we've had quite a few, but the worst one is we walked into an apartment, Paddy's weekend, probably our very first Paddy's weekend of operating the business. If that didn't put us off, I don't know what will. But we walked into this apartment and the stud wall, it was obviously a stud wall, was just in pieces on the floor. There was no wall. It was now an open plan kitchen. There was no stud wall. And I was like, oh my God, just just when you think you've seen everything, something else happened. And I'm like, the wall, like there was the frame, you know, the wooden frame, but all the plaster was on the floor. And I was like, what on earth? And I was at work and I wasn't for some reason. It was when we were still working. And I was just like, what do I even do with this? Oh my God. So there's this pile of plasterboard in effect on the floor. And there was a massive dollop of poo on the top, human poo. And I was just like...
On top of the pile of
on top of the pile of cement, and plasterboard. Yeah. And I was like, who does that? Oh my God. And then I was just like, I can't believe that. And then like everything you opened or touched just had stuff. So beans, there was a tin of beans poured in the cutlery drawer. And I was just like, what do we even do with this? And I phoned Carl Norman and I was like, Carl, what do we do? Like him and I were really good friends. And I was like, I don't know what to do. This place is trash, bags at work. I can't go to it. And he's like, it's okay. I can't come, but I'll send Max. And he sent his son. And I'm thinking, I'll get Max to clean this poo up, you know, me like 30 odd years of age. I was like, no. So I literally just had to scoop it all into a bag. And I was like, oh my God. And then I think I phoned all of our cleaners and I was like, can everybody just come to, it was on Slater Street. I was like, can everybody just come to Slater Street? So anyway, in the end, there was like 5 or 6 of us there for literally probably best part of 6 hours, just cleaning everything away. And I was like, where do we even start to get this place back to normal? Took loads of photos and everything. It was an Airbnb booking and they'd gone and collected the keys from, it wasn't Keynest, it was another operator who had opened a sort of unofficial Keynest. Okay. They went and got the keys from him. So we had the CCTV that they actually got the keys from them and everything. So I phoned them up, you know, obviously they're not answering the phone, phoning, writing to them. I'm like, what on earth happened here? In fact, it wasn't an Airbnb booking because we didn't go through Airbnb, it was booking.com. We had a £200 deposit. Which is usually where the worst guests usually come from. So £200 deposit. And I was like, that doesn't even pay for today, never mind anything else. Eventually he replied and said, oh, it wasn't us. When we left this morning, it was perfectly fine. It must have been the cleaner. I was like, cleaner hasn't even been. You took the key. I've got the video of you taking the keys back at 10 o'clock and I got there at 10:30. It was not the cleaner. Wow. So anyway, this rumbled on. He was having none of it. So I had 4 lots of ID, young Irish guys, Southern Ireland. When you Google map the house is like 17-bedroom mansion in the middle of nowhere. They've got a few bob. So I wrote to the parents of, and then whatever their name was and the address. And I wrote on the back of the envelope, I wrote, this is really important that only the parents open this document and blah, blah. Really made it out like it was this amazing envelope that only the parents could open. And inside I included pictures of everything and a whole like paragraph about, you know, how disgusted I was. And if this was my child, then, you know, I would force them to face the consequences. And this has caused a small business owner, you know, thousands of pounds of damage. And, you know, they should have more respect and everything. And I posted all of them, recorded delivery, and they all got signed for. Never, ever heard anything again. Really? And I could have took them to court and I was just like, I just can't even be bothered because I had taken somebody else to court prior to this and we'd won. And I was like, I'm just so over it now. You know, we put the stud wall back up and it was all fine. But I was just like, how disrespectful can people be? If that was Natalie, she'd still be paying for it now. You know, I would still be sending money to this poor person she'd done this to. I was like, it just shows what sort of parents there are. But the kids could have signed for it and hidden it away, obviously knowing what had gone on last week to get this envelope. I think they probably would have done. So that was that one.
You'll have to go around then. That's the next thing.
I think we sort of just let it go now. We're quite a few years ago. But before this, we had another one. It was we had a block of apartments in Westminster Road and they'd made holes in the wall. You know, the corridors are only stud walls into the bedroom. They'd made holes in the wall, they pulled the blinds down. There was probably about £1,000 worth of damage. And that one I did pursue and we took it to court. We took it to the small claims court and we won and we actually got the money through. We pursued it to the bailiffs and then he got a CCJ and he did actually pay it all back.
And what was the reasoning behind causing that amount of damage? Like, did they
just drunk?
Yeah,
just pissed up lads, you know, having a good time.
So you don't think any of it's malicious or anything? It's just people
having a good time, just drunk. I don't think. I mean, apart from the wall being on the floor, I don't know how that could physically have started as a bit of a laugh and ended up like that. Whereas the holes in the wall are literally just people bouncing off the wall, you know, with an elbow, or they've got a bottle in their hand or so, and they're just drunk, and the blinds pulled down, you know, they were just trying to smoke out the window and they've fallen over or whatever, you know, and the place is a mess because, you know, there's 1,000 beer bottles, or there's those laughing gas canisters or something, or balloons.
They just get everywhere.
Hundreds, thousands of them in a box, in a beer box, you know, like a Budweiser box. And I'm like, these people just must have no brains, you know. So I can see how things, you know, I was young myself once, I can see how things evolve and just happen. I don't think people purposefully go, let's book an Airbnb this weekend and trash it. I like to think human beings don't do that. I know it goes on, obviously, but yeah, I think so. Prior to the other guy who we took to court, we took another one to court as well, and that was a similar thing, you know, caused damage and everything, and we took it to court, and the judge unpicked everything, decided that we shouldn't be the claimant because we didn't own the property, so we weren't out of pocket. It was the owner, so the owner should have been in court. So the judge dismissed it at the 11th hour, and we were like on a technicality of who should have been sitting in that seat.
So what would happen in that situation with the owner then?
The owner would then have to go and submit all the paperwork, and he gave us our feedback. It's only 60 quid to file a small claims court order, but it should have been the owner. The owner was like, exactly. But I will, you know, once I get the bit between my teeth, I'm like, no, that's not right.
An incident we had related to the first one you talked about, I think it was just after everything opened up after COVID. People were like really keen to socialise and mix again. And then we had a massive party that broke out in one of our apartments. NOS canisters everywhere.
Is that what they're called?
Yeah,
NOS.
Nitrous oxide. And,
okay.
They're just absolutely everywhere. You know, I sent a message to the guest. The guest didn't get back to me, but her dad got back to me, and in contrary to your situation, he was like really kind of accepting of the issues that he caused. He just said, I'm so sorry, this is totally unacceptable, just let me know what it's going to cost, and he just transferred the money. So it's
there are some responsible
parents. Well, in your situation, I guess we'll never know whether the parents actually saw the letter.
No, exactly. But yeah, if it was one of mine,
I think that was when I just started as well.
It's heartbreaking, isn't it? Because you just sit there, it's so personal. You're just like, how could somebody do this to me? They've done this to me, you know, and it is so personal, and you can't understand it because you would never ever allow that to happen. And if it did, you know, if something got out of hand, you know, we've had people, you know, message us to go, I'm so sorry, I've broken a glass, I've left £1 on the side, you know, and you're like, that's so lovely. And if it did get out of hand, you'd like make up some story, and I'd say, I'm so sorry, she had an epileptic fit and we managed to break your sofa, but we'll pay for it. You know, and it is what it is. It's not great, but it's something.
Like I've got no issue with people having a good time. You know, as I said, I'm not, I wouldn't say I'm old, but I'm like, I have been younger once, and when I was, you know, renting Airbnbs, you know how things can escalate. It can happen, just as long as people are happy to, you know, pay for the damages and just be respectful.
And talking of paying for damages, got another funny story. I must dig this note out because I did put it on Facebook. There was a handwritten note on an envelope and 30 quid. It was like a rhyme thing, and he was like, I'm so sorry, we ruined your bedding. She was on the blob and it was covered in hairy monk spunk. And I was just like, oh my God, how can somebody be so open about what has happened and then leave 30 quid? And I was like, actually it was more, you know, it didn't cost 30 quid. But I'll have to dig that when I was on Facebook and post that again. Definitely. I was just like, I'd be mortified if somebody wrote that about anything and got it in my house. But gross. Just grossed me out. I was like, I'd rather not know what was on the bedding. I love the 30 quid.
There's a lot of talk in the industry about getting direct bookings. People are realising that the commission that's being paid to Airbnb, booking.com between like 15 and 18%, and it just takes a huge chunk out of your net income at the end of the month. So I remember you saying something about you having sort of close to 40% of your bookings come direct, which is possibly like the highest I've come across. What's your approach to getting direct bookings, and how can other people increase their direct bookings?
Yeah, of course. Talked about this morning. I had a mentee call this morning, and I was like, if you only do one thing, you need to do this. And I'll come on to that in a minute. But where you talk about we have 40% direct bookings, I can show that as well. There's too many people in this industry going, I've got this and we've done that, and I've got this £1 million booking. And what they're actually showing you is they're showing you a booking that might or might not happen in November. And if you have a 7-day cancellation policy, that's not money in the bank. I can show you the 40% direct bookings and where they came from. So I just wanted to clear that up. But if you only do one thing to get direct bookings because you haven't got time to do anything else, if you get a Monday to Friday booking, always call them on it, either a Tuesday or a Wednesday, preferably a Tuesday. Just checking you got in okay last night. Was everything okay? Is there anything I can do for you, make your stay any easier? And generally the conversation flows about what they're doing there, you know, and they go, oh yeah, it was great, we got here at 6 o'clock, we went to Chippy, blah blah blah. Oh, are you here next week? You know, we're here the week after. Oh yeah, we are. We're always looking for somewhere to stay. You know, oh, you should have seen the place you put us last week, it was terrible. And you start that dialogue with them, and they start to build that trust with you, and they're like, oh, she's all right here, you know, great, okay, we'll sort something out next week. By Thursday, if you haven't heard from them again, give them a call or send them an email. So we have an automated email that goes out on a Thursday that basically says, don't forget, if you need accommodation next week, let us know, we'll do you a reduced rate on what you paid this week, sort of thing. So that is the only tip I give to people all of the time. If you don't have time to do SEO, build brand awareness, build your social media, I can't do any of this stuff. I'm old, you know, I don't do all this technology stuff, but I can call people every Tuesday. I'm not saying I personally call them, but somebody always calls them and makes sure that it's always a competent member of staff who has the authority to make a booking there and then. So the last thing you need is this, you know, John going, oh yeah, how much for next week? And they go, oh, I don't know, I'll need to check with the boss, you know, sort of thing. And it's all indecisive. You lose them at that point a little bit. So as long as they know, okay, this week the guest paid 570, I can reduce that to 500 next week, and there you go, job's good. And he might say there and then, yeah, great, book us in, go, you know, send me the link, sort of thing, and get it tied in and knocked off. And that works time and time again. It doesn't take much effort, 20 minutes, half an hour on a Tuesday, and then your automated email on a Thursday.
Fantastic. Yeah. In regards to any kind of social media advertising to get direct bookings, you don't do
we
that
do.
at all?
We do. I say I'm old. I'm old.
Right.
The rest of the team are all young. So we're on everywhere, you know, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. We're regularly posting. We have VAs in the Philippines. They're really good at Canva. So they're usually, you know, putting out twice a week content about Liverpool as well. What you don't want to do is you don't want to overface people. Property. You know, so coming up, we've got half term, we've got Halloween, we've got the River of Light. So the girls would have posted stuff about the River of Light, but then and you can book some of our properties. Here's the link. You know, there's always a link in there, isn't there?
And do you get a lot of people booking direct by seeing that content?
I don't honestly know, because we can't track. We probably can if we had an absolute expert, but we get an awful lot of direct bookings on our direct booking website, and it's not clear where they came from. Because if John from last week phones up and goes, oh, send me the link to whatever properties you've got, and we send him the link, we don't know whether he made the booking or whether he found us on social media or stuff. So it's not always clear, and I probably do need to spend a bit of time trying to analyse where the bookings are coming from, but they're coming, and that's the main thing at the moment. You know, you've always got a to-do list, haven't you? Things like that are always at the bottom. We do get a lot of traffic through the direct website. We also, of course, do what everybody else does, which is send an email out 2 weeks after the guest has stayed, just reminding them, you know, if you want to book in the future, you know, we are cheaper on our own website. Going back to price, we haven't come on to pricing, but going back to booking direct and paying huge commissions. It's funny because we do things the opposite way. We inflate our prices on Airbnb and booking.com. If we're £100 a night on our website, you will pay £118 a night on booking.com and Airbnb. If you come on our website, you pay £100. So the net effect to us is exactly the same. So strictly speaking, direct bookings make no difference to me.
So what's your motivation then, to incentive to get direct bookings?
To build the brand awareness and to try and get that loyalty to us rather than to somebody else. Because if they go on Airbnb, they'll find another 100 properties that aren't ours. So I want them to only find ours. So when I call them, I say, okay, I can be up to 18% cheap, up to 15% on the website, the banner, up to 15% cheaper. And we always say up to, because depending on the booking. So let's say, for example, a guest has booked 21 nights and the nightly rate is £100 and they go, okay, and they booked on booking.com. I know I can bring that down by 15%, but I will try for 7.5% cheaper rather than bring it to what it is on my website. They haven't found my website yet. And when I give them that price, that it was 100 and I can probably do £95 a night, they're made up because they're saving a fiver, but I'm making a fiver more than if they booked on my website. So, the negotiation, it helps with the negotiation, because a lot of the time they go, our budget's really only 90, go on then, I'll do it for £90 a night, if you commit to another 2 weeks sort of thing. So there is a lot of flex and a lot of negotiation, and they are getting it cheaper coming on our website. That's the incentive for them. Whereas if I was £100 on all three platforms, I'm then going to lose, I'm not going to lose money. I can give them up to 18% discount and the net effect will still be the same. I can still give them that discount without it affecting my bottom line at all.
Makes sense.
But the net effect for the money is exactly the same.
With Airbnb and booking.com, they have their own kind of host guarantee scheme. So the air cover, for example, with Airbnb. So when you're taking a direct booking, do you ever take into account the fact that you may be putting yourself more at risk because you don't have that air host guarantee, or is that not really something you consider?
It's not really a factor because we're on booking.com, so we're opening ourselves up to risk every day, day in, day out. So
just with booking.com and Airbnb, you don't take deposits?
It's only Airbnb we don't take deposits.
Only Airbnb don't,
So we take
ID,
signed terms and conditions, and a deposit for everybody, but no deposit for Airbnb guests. They still have to present ID and still have to submit terms and conditions, and everything else is still exactly the same for a direct booking as well. And our process is such, it's not flawless by any stretch. If somebody's intent on having a party or swindling us for ID, then that's absolutely, you're never going to stop that. It is what it is. A 16-year-old could just get a mum's ID out the drawer and make a booking, and that will happen.
But it makes them think twice.
It does make them think twice. Once they get that email, probably 1 in 100 bookings cancel as soon as they get that first email that says, thanks for your booking, please register here. You can see that they clicked on it because we have a footprint. We can see that they opened the terms and conditions and they started looking at it and then saw they had to present ID, and then it cancels. And you're like, I think we just dodged a bullet there. And people say, why do you have all that? And it's for that exact reason that we just talked about. If you're going to take someone to court, you can't take them to court with an email address. They can change their phone number. You need that ID. Now, it might turn out not to be that person. And we have had that before, with chargebacks and stuff. We don't touch wood. We don't get chargebacks anymore because we do a 3D secure link. So we don't charge cards. The more difficult you make it for people like that, then the easier it is, And we do get some pushback, people from Airbnb. I booked with Airbnb for a reason. They've got my ID. And I'm like, yeah, but they don't share it with me. I don't even get your second name. You just have to persevere with those types of people, and I'm like, not asking you to give me the crown jewels. Block out any sensitive information out your ID if you must, but I need it. And also to check their age as well. I don't want a 15-year-old in my property, thanks.
So let's just talk about the different types of, so some people do like management, some people do rent to rent, other people buy properties and run them as SA. So I think you mentioned you're primarily in management, but you do got 2 rent-to-rents, is that right?
We've got altogether between the 3 of us, we've got properties.
Right.
We are probably, and then the rest are rent-to-rent of some description.
And in terms of, what's the best strategy for somebody starting out? What would you recommend?
I would probably always look at purchase if possible. If you can beg, steal and borrow a deposit, scrape it together from somewhere. Like if we'd have been having this conversation 2, maybe 3 years ago, it would have been rent to rent, day in, day out. Rents are so high now. There is very little money in rent to rent. We've got a couple of properties that are 815. I think we're at 3-bedroom property, beautiful properties, front and back garden. And people in London be going, 815? Do you mean a week? No, I don't. I mean a month. But when we're looking at net payout to the owner of between £1,200 and £1,400, so that's 815. You add on £500 for utilities as an absolute maximum because of the way the energy prices have gone. We're at 1,300 break even. If we're only paying them out 1,400, that's too much of a risk. Whereas if you own that property and your mortgage is 300, you're now into maybe £500 profit because of the amount you're saving on the rent. Whereas going back 2-3 years ago, when Liverpool wasn't as oversaturated as it is now, that net payout was probably going to be between 1,600 and 1,800 after management fees, of course. And this is why sometimes rent to rent works for me, but it wouldn't necessarily work for you as an investor, because you've then got to pay me 18% management on that. You've got to pay my cleaning fee, you've got to pay my VAT, and with VAT registers, unfortunately. It would work for me, but it wouldn't for you. So
do you find that, are a lot of your clients, are they rent to rent investors?
They're less so now. I mean, probably the last 5 properties have been purchases. Whereas in the past, we could go for a run of 10 rent to rents. And the thing that winds me up, of course, on Facebook, you've probably seen me. That's ridiculous. And I am quite blunt. 2-bedroom house in Anfield and the rent's 900, and I'm like, you're absolutely way out. And the profit on it, it's going to net you 1,800 quid, and I'm like, I don't even net 1,800 on a 5-bedroom house. Never mind a 2-bedroom house. And I will call people out time and time again. They must, honestly, as soon as they see my name, they're like, oh, here she goes again.
But it's so true. I feel like there's too much talk about revenue and the top line figures, and not enough consideration for operating costs.
That's right. And that's what we spoke about before, about, our management fee is 18%. By the time we've paid the OTAs, by the time we've cleaned the place, the maintenance, the rubbish collection, the minute alarm, the key nest, you could be losing 50% of your revenue. And if your revenue is not great to start with, because your house is just okay, because it's a rent to rent, there's no passion there, there's no love for the house, it is just the property to be used, then before you know it, you're not making any money whatsoever. I've got a 1-bed in town from an investor. He worked out his figures, I think it was last year, and he was like, Joe, I'm averaging £38 profit. And I said, that's because you're paying £300 more rent than you should be. You should be paying 700 and you're paying 1,000. A 1-bedroom apartment in town paying £1,000. So that would have been a 380 whatever pound profit, whereas now it's not. And I'm like, I can't help what you're paying in rent. If you came to me with that deal and said, do these numbers work, I'd tell you, no, they don't. I'm doing myself, and too many management companies won't actually tell you the real numbers. They go, it'll be fine. It's not. And you put all that work in, and there's no return for the investor. Exactly. I'm making money. I'll take property day in, day out, but when I'm not making the investor money, it doesn't work.
It's not sustainable.
It doesn't sit well.
But I feel like in this industry, most people seem to be doing rent to rent. Just seems to be the most common strategy. I understand there's less barriers to entry than buy to SA because of the initial capital required. But even management, I feel like is probably, for me, it's like a better strategy to go down than the rent to rent. I have some rent to rent. Say they're with family members, and it's an easier it's easier to sort of manage that relationship. But the hassle that's involved as well with rent to rents and dealing with other landlords, find it
no, it definitely is. And I was telling you the story earlier. We've got a rent to rent. We only pay £1,000 rent, massive house, and the landlord's mortgage is £800. I need the gutters fixing. He has an obligation to fix them, but there's no money in the pot for him to fix that. So we have to come to a compromise, and in the end we paid for the gutters and it was fine. But strictly speaking, that should never be on us. If that boiler goes, I could be without a boiler for 3 weeks because he can't afford to fix it, and that's what's happening with the rent-to-rent in Liverpool, particularly at the moment. And sources, property packages or the deal packages. I'm like, you're a sourcer. No, I'm a deal packager. I haven't quite distinguished what the difference is. But I went to PPN a couple of weeks ago, and out of the room, there's probably 30 people in the room. PPN, Progressive Property Network.
Okay.
I went to PIN, or did I go to PIN and he went to PPN? I went to PIN in Tyburn Street. He'd gone to PPN.
Is that a monthly thing, is it?
Yeah, it's I think it's the last Thursday. It's either the last Thursday or the first Thursday of the month, and they're both on the same Thursday.
Right.
That's why Brian went to one and I went to another. And out of 30 people, there were 10 deal sources in the room. Right. So I was like, okay, when was that even a thing? Yeah. So it's just mad. And the amount of messages that I get, and they're just copied and pasted messages. I noticed you commented on the deal in out of Mongolia. Are you interested in those type of deals? And they're all exactly the same message. Yeah. They're obviously all going to the same school of deal packaging. And it's just crazy, absolutely crazy. And in a way, I do feel sorry for investors. Some investors phone me and they're absolutely in tears going, I need to get out of this deal. Can you have a look at it for me? So you have a look at it and it's an absolute shed. And when you unpick it, and I'm like, okay, where do you live? So she goes, I live in Birmingham. Okay, so did you not come and see the property? I haven't got time, I've got a full-time job. Okay, well, no, sorry, you've just lost 10 grand. Yeah. You need to come, you need to pound the streets, you need to ask the right questions, speak to the right people. Google. There is a certain sourcing company in Liverpool who we shan't name any names for, but they operate in a certain block in Liverpool. And if you were to Google just the block name, you will see me time and time again. Keep away. Yeah. And that's all you have to do. Or Google the guy's name and it's there blatantly for all to see. We went through it probably about 4 years ago with a company called Unique Property Group. Yes. And the owner of that. Yes. This is a spin-off of that. And all you have to do is
the
type
same
one.
Owner,
no, it's different, but I think it's front for that owner. And all you have to do is type in Unique and you will see a whole spider's web of what's going on. And it doesn't take much. And I feel sorry for people who've been ripped off, but at the same time, they've got to start getting wise. You can't tell me you live too far away when you live in Birmingham or London or Basingstoke or wherever you live. Take 5 hours out of your day, to drive up here, come and speak to people. Like this girl said, oh yeah, I came to Liverpool and he was in Dubai and he said he had the keys with him. And I said, it's electronic locks. He could have just given you a code. Oh yeah, I didn't think of that. I'm just like, okay, sometimes I can't help people. If it smells of bullshit, generally it is, so stop ignoring the red flags.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay.
Sorry. I feel like I went off on a real rant there.
No, that's all really good advice. So, and finally, let's talk about Airhost and Learn then. So how long's that been going for now?
Airhost and Learn has been a thing in lockdown, actually. Right, okay. Airhost and Learn was never meant to be Airhost and Learn. You weren't busy enough and needed something else to keep occupied. Well, there was always the train of thought there that there needs to be some basic sort of learning, teaching information there. Because in the early days when we opened up that booking.com listing and you had to press this button and there was another hidden button that you didn't know unless you went to that screen and all the very practical operational type stuff. I always said, I wish I could just ask somebody, if there was somebody approachable to just ask what buttons to press. Once they've shown me, it's fine, I can do it. So the thought was always there. And then of course we got to March, didn't we, of 2020, and the whole of March, the whole of April, we sat there crying. And once we stopped crying, I was like, right, okay, team. Because of course there was me, Brian, Natalie at the time. We gave up our office, so we're in our front room. And I was like, right, what are we going to do? And I was like, we're going to have to do something. A, to keep us amused, because there was no bookings, as you know. And B, to earn us some money. Otherwise we can't pay ourselves. So I was like, right, okay, we're going to start an educational program. I had no idea where to start. Came across Thinkific, which is an online learning platform where you can upload content. Thinkific.
Thinkific.
A bit like Kajabi and you know, all those other sort of
okay.
online module type things. And I actually built our own website on Squarespace. While I claim to be old, and I am old, and a technophobe, I'm actually a little bit okay with a bit of technology. So I thought, okay, how hard can it be? Some YouTube. So I've got 2 screens. I'm watching YouTube videos, how to build these modules and stuff. And we started out with a very basic how to make an Airbnb listing. So I literally videoed myself, got myself in the corner, videoing myself, press this button, do that, make sure your listing is catchy, your photos are good, your first 5 photos, all this type of stuff. So built the first 2 modules, and then I was like, right, okay, what else can we do for this program? I wanted it to be about 10 weeks long. So Natalie wrote an operations module about how to go out and check the property. She made her spot check form. So she always had a spot check form on a random piece of paper, which she followed, but it was never documented. It was never a system or a process. Right. So we sat down, we did that. And then Bri wrote a whole finance module, which was really good, about how to get payments from the guest, but also how to record for tax purposes, how to record your income, your expenditure, those types of things. And then we did a guest communication module. We got Emma Lindman from Lindman Digital Marketing. Okay. She works very closely with Chris Enright. She wrote a whole marketing module for me, and in return I promoted her website building skills everywhere. Okay. We ran it for 10 weeks. So we used to have a Zoom every Thursday night, 10 people on initially on the course. And the plan was to run every Thursday night at 7 o'clock. Me and Bri had escaped to Portugal at this point. Me and Bri were in Portugal. And it was funny because on a Thursday, we had to drop in next week's modules so we could talk about them tonight. And on Thursday morning, we're still writing the content for these modules, still recording it and everything. So it was all on a wing and a prayer, dropping the modules in one by one. And eventually we got the whole 10 weeks and it was really good. Everybody loved it and was like, this is exactly what we needed. Brilliant. You know, we don't want to learn about deal sourcing. You know, the streets aren't paved with gold. We know we can't run SA from our phone on a beach for 5 minutes. We need practical stuff. So that's how it was born, really. And then it evolved into, I had a lot of people saying, oh, I don't want to wait 6 weeks for the next course. I need it now. I've got my keys, you know, I rent to SA 6 weeks, 6 weeks worth of rent I've got to pay, you know. So reluctantly, I turned it into an online buy off the shelf 10 module program. But I also included 2 hours of one-to-one because I felt it was important that the modules were put into context as well, so that if you struggled with any aspect of them or didn't understand why we call our guests every Tuesday, that we could talk about it. So I think that one-to-one contact is really important. Not a lot of people take it up. Loads of people do the course, fly through the course, you know, I can see their progress and stuff. And I do dip in occasionally and go, are you okay? I can see you stuck on module 4. And they go, yeah, it's fine, I just haven't had time. But yeah, generally it just sits there doing its thing. So that's quite nice.
How many people have you got in the course?
Through the course, we have had probably over 100 people now.
Amazing.
And it just sits there quite nicely. And we do update it. The only thing we really update is the Airbnb and the booking.com listing, because those things change fairly regularly. You know, a couple of people will go, the screen doesn't look like it does. And I'm like, okay, hold on a minute, come back tomorrow and I'll have recorded a new video and I'll throw a new video in. But nothing else changes because everything else is just a process. Yeah, so since then, we've probably had about 100 people through the course. Earlier this year, back end of last year, I started offering mentorship as well. And the mentorship is a little bit more advanced. So originally I thought it was going to be aimed at small management companies that wanted to grow, but actually it's done that as well. It was 50-50. So it's people like yourself who are like at 10 units and they're like, okay, I'm a bit on a hamster wheel here. I haven't got time to think about my systems and processes. Can you just give me them? So and you know, throughout the whole program, I'm like, I'm not saying this is the right way. It's just the way that works for us. It might not work for you. You have to think about your own plan, but everything's there, you know, all the templates, all the systems, the Asana boards, all the templates and the resources are all there, and you can adapt them for your own needs, sort of thing. And I won't take any more than probably 3 mentees at a time, and a mentorship is 6 months in length, because I am a working management company first and foremost, you know, and sometimes I have to drop a call. It's very rare. Sometimes I have to go, guys, can we cut this short because I'm gonna have to go. I'll come back tomorrow, you know, because we are a working management company. company. And I think that's how it should be. I don't want to, because Brian keeps saying, well, when we retire, you can just do mentorship and we'll live on that. And I'm like, but by then I'll have no skin in the game and things will have changed. How can I teach something I'm not doing?
Absolutely, yeah.
I don't understand.
And with you training up these management companies who are in their initial sort of journey, is there not the risk then that you'll just create loads of competitors for yourself?
Yeah.
And is that something you're worried about, or not?
No, not particularly. It also goes back to what we were saying earlier about sharing and the collaboration in Liverpool. I'll tell anyone everything. You know, if you ask me how much I made last year, I'll tell you. You know, I am an oversharer. That's just the way I am. Obviously, if you came to me and said, right, can I buy all your systems and processes for £2,000, I'd say no, because that's not in my best interest. But if you were based in Stoke, then of course, there is no threat to me there whatsoever. We always know somebody we can call on, and I haven't got all the answers. I call on people and I'm like, what do you think about this? What do you think I should do about that? And things like that. We're always constantly learning and evolving. No, I don't think so.
Okay. I mean, because I put a lot of free educational content out there as well, just to try and promote Air Buy and Sell, which is the property data platform. And I get some people who say, why do you want to put out content to help other people compete with Flatsy? It's hard to explain to people, why it's not just about, you're not here to fiercely compete with everyone. There's a big enough market for lots of people to get involved, and the people who look at any content I put out are from all over the country. So
that's right. They're not necessarily I'm the same as I'm always doing silly videos in my linen cupboards, and I do sometimes feel like I overshare and I'm, maybe I shouldn't have done that. And sometimes people take the mick, they come in your inbox and they're like, what about this? And I reply and go, okay, maybe this. And they go, okay, well, can you do this? There's a module there for that. If you want to buy it, £99, there you go. Give you all the information, all the answers. Oh, okay, I'll have a look. You just like, okay, bye. And they do just want to pick your brains for free. Absolutely. And I, like, a guy popped in, I don't think he did pop in. I went in his post for something, I can't remember. I said, okay, send me your link. So he sent me his link. I can't remember what it was. It wasn't direct bookings. I think he'd gone 3 weeks without a booking. He was brand new. And I said, send me your Airbnb link. So he sent me his Airbnb link, and straight off 5 things. And I was like, there you go, work on them. And he was like, thank you so much. And whether he did or he didn't, I don't know, but it took me 2 minutes to have a look. And I'll do that for anybody. He's no threat to, if he was in Liverpool, I'd probably go, really sorry, you've got a fantastic listing, thank you very much. But he wasn't, so it was fine, and hopefully, and he never came back with any further questions. He was like, thank you so much for your time. Very respectful, and that's absolutely fine. But it's the ones who just want everything for free, and they're like, oh yeah, how much is your mentorship program? 6 months for £2,000. Bloody hell, you're getting the bargain here. This is one-to-one contact every week. A WhatsApp group that I answer when I'm on holiday, and stuff. And they still, I'll think about it. Okay.
So, and if people want to join your mentorship program, how do they go about doing that?
Yeah, so you can find us on our website, airhostandlearn.com, or type in Airhost and Clean, and you'll eventually get to the training pages from the management pages. I'm not my own built website.
Brilliant. Okay, so I think that's we covered quite a lot of stuff there, so it's been really insightful. Yeah, thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome. I've enjoyed it.
Brilliant.
Thank you.
And thank you everybody for watching.